Hello again. Welcome to Southeastern 16. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Graham Doty and Alfred Ezman, and special guest, Nick Mingione. If you're an SEC baseball fan, you know this guy. He just took Kentucky to new heights last year, going to the College World Series for the first time. Two straight excellent years for the Cats, contending near the top of the league. Nick, thanks for joining us today. I know you're running the gamut of media stuff. We appreciate you making time. First of all, congratulations on your achievement, not just getting there, but your reputation, your integrity, all those things are just sterling in this industry. So I want to compliment you on that. Second of all, now that you've had this level of success, taking Kentucky to places it's not been before, how has that changed everything around the program, from fan support to media stuff to program perception, recruiting? I'm just very interested to know what your run of success has done for perception of the program locally and nationally.
Well, thank you for the compliments, Chris. They don't go unnoticed. So appreciate that. The first thing, you know how this goes, especially with college baseball and recruiting. I mean, we finish in Omaha. I think we finished fourth or fifth or fourth, or I don't know how they do it, but we get on the plane, fly home, you start your player meetings, and it's right into recruiting. So really, it finally slowed down for us a little bit at the end of August. Got about 7 days where I got a chance to get away with Kristen and Reeves. We have a 10-year-old, but and then this December finally. But the notoriety and all the attention we got for making it to the College World Series for the first time has been truly remarkable. As you know, it's the biggest stage of college baseball, and when you get a chance to go there and not only go but be the first time ever, then have a walk-off win the first time ever, and we had some really cool press conferences and other things. So we've gotten a lot of great attention, and the baseball world has definitely noticed. So that's helped in recruiting the fan base. I mean, for our super regional game, we packed the house out. Literally, fire marshal said no more people, at our super regional game. So we're able to do that and set all kinds of attendance records. And so just thankful for the Big Blue Nation and even all the people of college baseball that supported us. So it's helped in recruiting. It's helped with the fan base. I've got a lot more of these, Chris, doing a lot more of these with great guys like yourself. So it's all definitely been positive.
Coach, you've been very successful in the transfer portal the past handful of years. I want to ask you, so not only do you have to worry about the success on the field, but you're also like a general manager as well. You have to worry about NIL, finding the players, all that. How do you like that aspect of it, essentially being the general manager too?
Well, I've often said this, and I share this with our team every year. If you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change the way you think about it. If you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, just change the way you think about it. So, Graham, what I've had to do is just change the way I think about all those things, because some of them I liked and some of them I didn't. Well, now I like them all because I've chosen. I'm not going to live in a world where I'm unhappy about these circumstances, right? I'm not going to let those affect me. So it's definitely been different. The state of college athletics, especially baseball, has changed. But now it's to a spot where it's like, this is what, if you want to be successful, this is what you have to do. And if I just can't sit there and feel sorry for myself or our program. So we've gone out and tried to do the best job we could. And obviously I've hired a great staff. So when you think about the people and how well we've done in the transfer portal and other things like that, is they filled a lot of those gaps for our program. So that part's been great.
Coach, diving into your roster for this season a little bit, you have a lot of transfers coming in, obviously, as pretty much every other team, in college baseball does. But a returner that I love, heading into this season on your team is Devin Burkes at catcher. Last year, he did some impressive stuff at the plate to me. I saw you guys in Hoover. That was mainly where I saw y'all play. He's just like a lot of the players last year. He got a lot of steals, 19 steals a season ago. I don't know if the transfers you brought in have that same sort of, if you guys looked for that, the guys who steal bases a lot to keep that same small ball thing going. But with Devin Burkes, what do you like about him being, kind of a leader on this team now and a guy who knows this Kentucky culture so well?
Well, I can tell you that for 2 years, the past 2 years, he's been our starting catcher. And in 23, we made it to a super regional and lost to Superman and Paul Skeens in the eventual national champions and Jay Johnson and LSU Tigers. And then last year we go to the first trip ever to the College World Series. So the 2 years that guy's been a starter, he's led us to a super regional, and Omaha. So to your point, when I think about a leader, I've never won a championship. As a player and a coach, I want to say 3, 4, 5. I've been to the College World Series maybe 6, 7 times between being a player and a coach, and I've never been without a championship catcher. So I really believe that that is one of the keys to our success the past 2 years. So to have him back for a third year is a really good thing. And then you talked about a skill set. I say this about our offense. Our offense is a whatever it takes type of offense. So when you look at our offense last year in the SEC, for SEC games only, which that's where I kind of put my comparison. It's the greatest league in America. We led in batting average. We hit the most doubles, the most RBIs. We had the most hits. We were 4th in home runs. People don't talk about that. We led the SEC in bunts. Like we led in stolen bases. Like we're whatever it takes type of offense. And Devin Burkes can do all those things. He can lay down a bunt if he has to. He can steal a base if he has to. 2 years ago, I think he hits 8 home runs. And last year, I think we were all waiting for him to hit double-digit home runs and get to that spot. It didn't happen for him, but he's fully capable of doing that. So he is a great representation of our offense. He can do whatever it takes, from hitting a home run to hitting a double to stealing a base or laying down a bunt. And when you have one of your best players who's also one of your best leaders, or he is your best leader, that's a good thing for us.
Nick, I watch the way you build your roster every day, and I think you sort of hinted at some of it with your offensive style, doing some things that are older school. And I see in pitching too, feels like you guys keep the ball on the ground. You may not lead the league in strikeouts, but I feel like maybe you've tapped into something there that's working. The other thing, I look at your roster. My goodness, I don't know that there's an older roster in the country. You guys have got a bunch of class of 20 and 21 kids. You've even got Nic McCay, who's I think a class of 2018. It feels like it's crazy. It feels like your strategy is like, let's go find the oldest players in the country in the portal and get them on our roster. Am I close here?
Well, not exactly, but you are right about us being old. Like you've clearly done your homework. And in our conference, do you want to be old? Yes. But I always go back to, there's this fine balance of, you want to have your high school players that have been in your program for 2 and 3 years. And then if you can bring in some of the older guys to complement those, now you have a recipe. So you're right. Some of the guys that have been in college baseball for us, Nic McCay, 7th year of college baseball. And if the season started today, he would be pitching on the weekend for us, right? So that's a guy with a ton of starts underneath his belt. But then also we have a guy like Ben Cleaver, who was a freshman last year, battled with some nagging injuries, and he's ready to step forward and potentially be a guy for us. So you got to have this mix of guys that have been in your program. They've been through the league. They know, like the guys like Devin Burkes, a guy like out of the bullpen for us, Jackson Novi, who has, I can't tell you how many, over 100 appearances. Like you got to have this nice mix of high school guys that you have developed, and then you fill in with those pieces. And to your point, Chris, then eventually you become old. And that's a good thing that they have experience. So we have a guy this year in Tyler Bell. If the season started today, he would start on our infield. He's a freshman. So I'm not opposed to playing freshmen too. We're going to play the best players. And this year, again, we're hopefully should have about 3 to 4, maybe 5 guys that are in our starting lineup that were high school players. And now they're sophomores, juniors, and in Devin's case, a 5th year, ready to just keep leading.
You made a new addition to your coaching staff. You got a new hitting coach, Chase Sloan. So how has that transition been for you?
It's been neat. And you guys know this. And sometimes in college baseball, you have relationships with some of the guys on your staff prior, and sometimes you don't. And Chase was a camper for us when we were at Mississippi State. And I remember him as a camper, and I followed his career. He was an amazing defender, high energy guy. He led his team that for the Knights baseball, they ended up winning the prep national championship that summer. And he was one of the main leaders on that team. And I remember following his career. And we reconnected a handful of years ago on the road recruiting while he was at Wright State, and just so impressed by him and his knowledge. And then having competing against Wright State multiple times, just to see him and what he's done with that offense, and under some great coaches like Nate Metzger, who's one of his mentors and who I have a relationship with. And so just to watch his success has been neat. And then for him to step right in and, get in with our guys. We have a lot of new players. We have a lot of returning players, and to watch him interact with them, it's been pretty neat. And for him to learn our system, but then for him to bring things that he can add value to us, it's been a good transition.
Coach, a big story for you guys this offseason came from a member of your freshman class, I feel like, with Tyler Bell. He was picked high in the draft, up there, in the first few rounds. Obviously, it's hard for coaches like you to bring those guys, to college because they want to go play professional a lot of the time. But Tyler Bell wanted to play in Lexington. Talk about him, that decision, what you know about it, and these other freshmen. What do you like from them?
Well, he made it really clear in the recruiting process that Kentucky was his dream school. So I think when you have a guy that this is where he wanted to play. Okay. And then as the draft and everything started going on, and in January, all the preseason workouts and things of that nature, obviously he was a second rounder, and he is just like all the other great players I've ever coached, he has this tremendous self-belief. He believes in himself, and it's not coming from the outside into him. It's where confidence comes from, and it comes from the inside out. Okay. And this guy has tremendous belief in himself. So when the draft didn't work out the way that he wanted, he had no problems saying, hey, I'm going to come to Kentucky. This is my dream school. I truly believe that I can grow and develop there and become a better player, which ultimately is going to help us win, help him go to minor league baseball, eventually make it to the big leagues and prepare him for the big leagues. And he believed that. So for us to get a guy like him has just been so good and so invaluable for us. And we're super excited about him and his future.
Nick, with the context that we're doing this, I think 3 weeks and a day out from the start of the regular season, I want to talk lineup architecture. I feel like Burkes will be part of things. I feel like Tyler Bell will be part of things. You got a bunch of transfers, Koontz, Lawrence, maybe Will Marcy. What do you think, if you had to fill out a lineup today, what do you think that looks like, and maybe where are your position battles?
Yeah, I would say that one thing, if you kind of follow how we've done things in the past, is especially early in the year, I give a ton of guys opportunities. So, and I think that's really important. These guys have been working their butts off through the summer, the fall, the spring, and the guys where they were in the fall, some of them they've come back and they're even better than they were. So just because coming out of the fall, a guy maybe have won a position, it doesn't mean that he's won the position now. So I'm one of those coaches that takes it down. And for the last 2 years, our opening day center fielder was not the same guy that started there at the end of the year, right? Like, I give a ton of guys opportunities, and we're going to do the same. But those guys you just mentioned are guys that are going to get plenty of opportunities for us. Dylan Koontz has had as good a fall as anybody offensively. Same thing with Will Marcy. Will Marcy's fall was incredible. Will spent 2 years at NC State, spent a year at Memphis, and now he's with us. I mean, Luke Lawrence brings a level of toughness and skill level that we love. His ability to steal bases, lay down a bunt, ram a ball in a gap, hit the ball at a yard. Like, he does a lot of those things. So for me, those guys, Cole Hage is another guy who came in from Columbia. And just the physicality, the speed, the power, the strength is undeniable. So, and then we got guys like James McCoy, who's been an everyday player for us for the last 2 years. So we have a handful of guys. And then we got our freshmen from a year ago who are sophomores now that are going to get opportunities with Ethan Hindle and a Caius Gargett and an Eli Small. All these guys are going to get opportunities. So we feel like we have some depth at almost every spot. I mean, Raphael Pelletier is a catcher who was an everyday catcher for Kansas State, a super regional team a year ago. He's going to help spell Devin. He's going to get opportunities. So we're going to give a lot of guys opportunities, especially early on, and we'll see what they do with those opportunities. But we feel like we have good depth from the positional player side.
I want to ask you about your Mississippi State days. You were a part of a staff that had 3 SEC head coaches on it, and Lane Burroughs, too, head coach at Louisiana Tech. What do you think about when you reflect on your time in Starkville at Mississippi State?
Great question. The first thing I think about is I met my wife there, and my son was born there, so my life changed forever. But John Cohen, who's now the AD at Auburn, has just given me so many opportunities. He gave me the opportunity to be the volunteer coach here at Kentucky. He gave me the opportunity to be the coach there. And obviously, Mitch Barnhart gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to be the head coach here. But 8 great years in Starkville. Loved the people, loved the fan base. The history of Mississippi State baseball was phenomenal. I really grew as a coach. I mean, I just had a cool text conversation the other day with Brent Ricker as he just signed his new deal and texting back and forth with his dad, and, got a chance to spend time with Jonathan Holder. A couple months ago, I went and spoke at a men's conference down in Mississippi, and, Holder and I got a chance to have dinner together and just develop unbelievable amount of really good, deep level relationships. And then you think about the coaches I had a chance to learn from in John Cohen, and had an opportunity to learn under Butch Thompson. And then Wes Johnson was there for a year, now the head coach at Georgia, and Lane Burroughs. I mean, and then even coming back here to Kentucky, I spent time under Gary Henderson, who was the eventual head coach here at Kentucky, and Brad Bohannon, coach at Alabama. I've just been blessed to be around some amazing coaches that I've really learned a lot from.
Coach, diving into your schedule this season, I'm looking far ahead, and I'm sure you guys are not doing that. But looking into SEC play, you guys play at some tough places. That's the thing that stands out to me about your schedule.
Yes.
Every place is tough to play in the SEC, but with you guys in particular, I mean, Bluebell Park and College Station. You go to Lindsey Nelson Stadium in Knoxville, and then Duty Noble Field even at Mississippi State, Foley Field even to begin SEC play against Georgia. Talk about your mentality with teams you coach when you go on the road to these places in conference play, and what do you tell them, with the games you guys are going to have this year at these tough ballparks?
Yeah. And then the fifth one there that we play at also is Vanderbilt. So we play at Vanderbilt. So think about those series, right? Like at Georgia, at A&M, at Tennessee, at Mississippi State, and at Vanderbilt. So the one thing I know, I've been in this league now for 19 years. So what does that mean? That means I got a lot more gray hairs than I had a long time ago. But for you to do anything in this league, you have to win on the road. Like, that's a must. Now, do you have to win every series on the road? No. But does it help to win a series or 2 on the road? Absolutely. Like, you have to handle business at home, and you got to win some games on the road. And so the beauty of our league, and I hope this is getting out more and more, guys, and with your help, it has, but our league is just so difficult. But that's the beauty of it. Like, that's the beauty of it. It's fun. Like, and I tell people, yeah, it's hard, but more than anything, I want to tell them how good it is and how fun it is to play against the greatest teams, against the greatest coaches, in front of the greatest fan bases in all of college baseball. Like, if that doesn't excite you, then you can't come here or you can't play in our league. So you do have to win games on the road. And for you to do what we did last year, obviously we were SEC champs. We were 22-8. In order to do that, if you want to be in the league and be a champion, you got to win games on the road. And we're going to have to do it in some tough places. But quite frankly, they're all tough, and they all have their own challenges, whether it be weather, attendance, fans, team. They all have their challenges, and you just get used to it. And I really believe that's one of the main reasons why SEC teams have done so well in the postseason, is because we're battle tested, and this year will be no different.
Nick, I know you're running the media gauntlet here, and you got to be out in about 4 minutes. So this may take our remaining time, but I wanted to ask you about pitching architecture. You mentioned some of your returning guys. You talked about Nic McCay, who I think would be in your rotation if the season started. You got Simon Gregerson and Cole Henschel, 2 guys who transferred in who have end-of-game closing experience. What does your pitching architecture look like? Are you going to mix and match with starters again like you do on offense? And maybe who are the guys that get to touch the ball a lot for you on weekends to start the year?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, for me, if you, yeah, and you guys obviously follow what we're doing. For us, it really starts on our pitching and defensive end. 2 years ago, we led the country in fielding percentage. We fielded 984. And then last year, we met our standard at trying to field 980. So in order for that to happen, you got to have pitchers that ran the ball in the strike zone. So for us, we value strike throwers. Coach Roselle is an awesome pitching coach. And one thing about our pitchers is he's a really good developer of talent in arms and actually developing pitchers, not throwers. So if you look at our guys, what makes us different, you talking about the architecture of our pitching staff, is almost every one of our guys is going to have a changeup. Right? We got a couple guys with splitties. Like, they're going to be 3 to 4 and 5 pitch guys. It doesn't matter if you're coming out of the bullpen. Most guys are fastball slider guys, right? Like, no, our guys are going to also throw changeups, and we're going to throw right on right changeups. And so his ability to develop arms has been good. So Nic McCay is a guy that threw really well. I mentioned Ben Cleaver earlier as a guy, a freshman a year ago, that's really taken a step forward. Walker is another guy for us. Ethan Walker, left-hander up to mid-90s, just super talented. Scott Rouse is the righty from Radford, low 3/4 arm slot with a really good slider and a really good changeup. So we've added some guys that we feel like can do that. Chase Alderman's a Kentucky kid that was at EKU coming off Tommy John, is looking healthy and getting stronger. So especially earlier in the year, very similar to what we do with our positional players is we kind of pair them up and mix and match, and we train 6 to 8 guys that could potentially be starters and chew up some innings. Leighton Harris is a freshman from here in Lexington that had a great fall and looks really good so far this spring. So, and then you mentioned the bullpen. We have guys like Robert Hogan and who is just an unbelievable success for us last year, and Jackson Novi, and Evan Byers is a guy that, has done a lot of good things for us. So, and you mentioned Simon Gregerson. So there's a lot of guys there that have some experience and that we feel good about, and we're just going to roll them out there and give them all a bunch of opportunities early.
Nick, we got about 1 minute left. Want to get you where you need to go. But first, I think we covered a lot, but any storylines we're sleeping on here with your program that didn't come up just now?
No, you mentioned the one thing that I think is something to look out for is we do have some age and experience. So much like the 23 team, we had a lot of new positional players, and we had a lot of guys step up that had been in our program, but they had experience in college baseball. And we got some guys in our program that have been. Another guy I didn't mention earlier was Pat Herrera. He's a guy that fourth year of college baseball. We have a lot of guys that have either been in our program or played college baseball, which could and should be a good thing. It doesn't mean it's going to lead to success, but we do have guys that have been in our program, have played a lot of college baseball, and experience is a good thing. So I feel like we've hit on that. And then Austin Cousineau, I mentioned Dan Roselle. Cousineau was one of our greatest players of all time. He's a recruiting coordinator. The amount of time and effort and energy that he's done out of the transfer portal and things like that has been really special, and he's one of our key weapons.
Yeah, he sure was fun to watch when he was in Lexington too. I remember. I can't believe he's been gone that long.
He's unbelievable. But
yeah. Well, Nick, thank you for your time. Best of luck to you this year. I know you'll have I see you're left out of the top 25s already, which is kind of a familiar position for you. But I have a feeling you guys are going to be pretty competitive and winning a lot of weekend series again this year. Good luck to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. And we've been out of top 25 last 2 years, and we've had the 2 and 3 guy when it matters the most.
Absolutely.